What's up guys, welcome back to Aquatic Elements. Now, in one of the last videos, you would have hopefully seen that we have rescaped the Datnoid aquarium. And the Datnoids now have a lot more space. I've got the Christmas moss or the Java moss covering those pieces of bogwood, and we've given a lot more tank space to the Datnoids in the aquarium. Now I did move on to another hobbyist, my elephant nose, and also my albino threadfin acara. Now, as I said in that last video, I really wanted to be able to just grow these Datnoids out and have them as a species only aquarium. However, there is one issue with that. All of the leftover food that these Datnoids do not eat accumulates at the bottom of the aquarium. And I do a 50 to 60% water change generally every single week. And in between that, I don't want all of this food going moldy or collecting lots of detritus at the bottom of the aquarium, because it's going to pollute that water quality in between those water changes, which means I do need a cleanup or a cleaner fish, so to say, to keep that floor and to keep all of that uneaten food nice and clean. And from the video title and thumbnail, you would have seen we have some new fish. Now, both of the fish that I am going to be adding to this aquarium, I've never kept before, but they are both fish that have been on my radar and fish that I would like to keep. So I'm really excited to add them to the aquarium. Now, first off, you can hopefully see in this bag here, we have our new fish. Now, this is a catfish, and it's going to be quite hard for you guys to see. So I actually got these from another hobbyist. So the first one's a catfish. I'm not going to show exactly which species it is just yet. And next up, we got a pleco. Now, you probably can't see it. Oh, you might be able to see it just in the bottom of the bag there. For the eagle-eyed viewers, you will have noticed that this is an albino pleco, but I'm not going to say which type. It is definitely one of the more unique species. So I'm going to get them acclimated, sit them in the aquarium for about half an hour to 40 minutes. They have come from a local hobbyist, so they've only been in that bag for about 40 minutes to an hour. I'm going to get them acclimated, get them in the tank, and then we can show you what we've got. Now, the new fish have been acclimating for the past 40 minutes, and you might be able to have a little bit of a closer look at them here. Really cool fish, but I will show you exactly what species we've got once we release them into the tank. I'll let them settle in, and then towards the end of the video, we will do a feeding as well, just to see how they're settling in, probably tomorrow or the next day. But they've been acclimating for the past 40 minutes, and I'm going to now release them into the aquarium. Now, the first species going into the tank, hopefully you can see on camera. I'll just move the camera a little bit closer. So for those eagle-eyed viewers, you will see that this is, it's shot over to the back, is a giraffe catfish. And the next species going in, as you can hopefully see, is an albino pleco. Now, this isn't any standard albino pleco. This is actually an albino Adonis pleco. A pleco that gets really big. You can see he's just sticking to the side of the net. An absolutely amazing fish, and I cannot wait to see how this grows. This is going to be really good at eating any of that leftover meaty foods, as these are more of a carnivorous pleco. An absolute stunner. So we'll let him settle in, and then we'll check them out probably tomorrow, talk a little bit more about them. Now, we'll let those two fish settle in, just relax and acclimate. I'm going to turn the lights off. I only left them on for the video purposes, and I'm going to turn those off now, let them settle in, and then tomorrow I'll talk a little bit more about the species we purchased, the Adonis pleco and also that giraffe catfish, talk about them in a little bit more in depth, and then we can also feed them and check them out a little bit close up on camera. So I'll catch you guys tomorrow. And we are back. So it's actually the next day now, and I'm pleased to say both of our fish have settled in really well. Now, as soon as those lights went out after I acclimated them for you guys watching at home, the fish became super active. The giraffe catfish was moving all around the aquarium, and the Adonis pleco decided to move from the front of the tank behind to the pieces of wood, and he's currently just sitting behind the filter. Now, both fish looking absolutely perfect, and we've had no issues with the datnoids, which was a little bit of a concern. I was worried they would potentially pick on the new fish or chase it, but the giraffe catfish is still fin perfect, and so is the Adonis pleco. Now I've got these fish acclimated and they are settled into the tank, let's do a little facts file about them and talk a little bit about these two species. Now, these aren't species that the average hobbyist would keep, and I need to say now that if you are wanting to keep either of these fish, then you definitely need to be prepared to have a big aquarium like the Monster Fish Mega Tank, which is behind the camera. This tank measures 8 feet long, 3 foot front to back, and 2.5 feet tall, holding around 1,620 litres. And this is definitely the size of tank that I would preferably be keeping some species like this in, but this is simply just my grow out tank. Now, the giraffe catfish is going to provide a really good bottom feeder. It's going to help keep the aquarium floor free of any dirt and detritus that I add to the tank, or I should say any food that then potentially would turn into that dirt and detritus. So it's going to be a nice little hoovering fish, cleaning up any of those prawns, mussels, bloodworms that make their way down through the water column, past the datnoids and onto the bottom of the aquarium. And the Adonis pleco is more of a carnivorous pleco, so it's going to have the same diet, and I'm not going to be able to supplement it, or I'm not going to be needing to supplement it like another pleco which was more omnivorous or more herbivorous. So let's start talking a little bit more about the species, and I'm going to put some different pictures of the species up on the video so you can see what they look like and what they will turn out into. Now, first up, I'm going to start with the giraffe catfish before moving on to the Adonis pleco, commonly known as the West African giant catfish. Now, this is a large species of freshwater fish belonging to the family Claridae, and it is native to Western Africa. And it's notable for its large size, distinctive appearance, and generally its habitat varies from rivers to lakes in the region. Now, these fish can get very large. I would say in the aquarium environment, they normally top out at around 2.5 feet maximum. Generally, you'll find they reach around 2 feet long or around 60 centimeters. They have an elongated cylindrical body similar to most catfish, and they are a scaleless fish as well. They come in a sort of brown color with a palish underside, and the juvenile fish, as you can see, my one has a nice sort of giraffe spotting to it and more of that giraffe pattern, which is where they get their name from. Now, the species tend to live in shallow moving waters like deep river channels, pools, and also large lakes with either sandy or muddy substrate. So when keeping them in your home aquarium, make sure that you have a nice substrate for them to sift through. You've got a nice bit of flow in the tank, but you've also got those areas for refuge where they can chill out under maybe some bogwood or between some stones, providing them a nice safe haven. Now, the giraffe catfish is a carnivorous species, feeding on lots of different organisms such as fish, invertebrates, and sifting through detritus. Its barbels help to detect any prey in low light conditions, and they definitely become more active when the lights start to dim and even go out. Now, usually the giraffe catfish is a solitary fish. It can sometimes be found in loose groups and aggregation, specifically during breeding season, but generally it's best to just keep one per aquarium. Now, just before we finish the little fact file on the giraffe catfish, A couple of additional facts. The giraffe catfish is actually a relatively docile fish, although it can become territorial or defensive during breeding, which is why I would recommend keeping one per aquarium. And they can be quite sensitive to water quality. Now, moving on to the Adonis pleco, its Latin name is Acanthicus adonis, belonging to the Acanthicus species of plecos. Now, this is one of the largest plecos you can keep in the home aquaria, and generally species will reach a maximum of 90 centimeters. They sort of range between that 75 to 90 centimeter size. However, with most albino fish, they tend not to quite get to the full size as the common, more standard variant does. Now, they have a stocky, robust body covered in bony armor plates, and they are generally normally a mix of brown color, gray or black, with a nice pattern of lighter spots. And with the albino variation, you will obviously have the red eyes for the albino, and it will be much paler color, more of a light cream color. Now, this fish is found in the Amazon River basin, particularly in Brazil and Peru, and they are found in slow-moving rivers, streams, floodplains, where you can find them beneath some submerged wood or debris, so providing them a bit of cover in your aquarium is absolutely essential. Now, as with most plecos, they are more of a nocturnal species, so you will see them becoming more active during the night time. And as I mentioned, it's always good to have a bit of cover for them. They are more of a solitary pleco, so I would always keep one per aquarium, and this is actually the only pleco I'm going to be keeping in the mini monster fish aquarium. Now, with the proper care, the Adonis pleco can easily reach 10 to 15 years old, and they do get very big, so I would recommend a minimum of 1,000-litre aquarium. But ideally, you want to be keeping them in a tank similar to the Monsterfish Mega Tank, which is around 1,600 litres or bigger if you can house them. And that becomes the end of the fact file on the Adonis pleco. Now, that is it for the fact file. I'm probably not going to give them any food today because they're still settling in, but I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow and we'll try and get them feeding on camera. And we are now back. It is the next day and I'm going to be adding some food to the aquarium. You may be wondering why the tank lights aren't on, and that is because these, as I mentioned earlier in the video, these fish are more of a nocturnal species, and also you're going to be able to see the datnoids colours a little bit better. So I wanted to do the feed in the dark and just get a different kind of angle on it. Now, I'm not sure if the giraffe catfish is going to eat, and especially I'm not sure about the pleco. He is on the back. Might take them a few weeks to adjust into this aquarium, but I've got some frozen mussels or defrosted mussels at the top of the tank in a mug, so I'm going to add them to the tank. I'm going to bring the camera closer and let's see if they feed. Now, as you can see, I've got some of the frozen mussels here, so I'm just going to pour those into the tank, and then hopefully we'll be able to see if the giraffe catfish comes over. Now, we are going to get quite a lot of reflection, but you can really start to see the datnoids colours, especially in the dark. You can really see the different bars. Now, these datnoids do love to change colour throughout the day. You can see they're really starting to get really confident on that food. Now, I'm not sure if the catfish is coming out. He's definitely moving. You can see him just at the back there. Looks like he smelt the mussel, which is good. But it might just take him a little bit longer to get used to this aquarium. Let's see. Oh, he's definitely feeding. So this is the first time I've actually seen and witnessed him feeding. Really, really striking pattern, but feeding really, really well. Hoovering up all of that mussel, which is great to see. So it's going to be nice to see that this is a good, cleaner fish for the aquarium. Any leftover food that the datnoids don't eat, he's going to be able to pick up. I do apologise about the glare from the glass, but when feeding with the lights out, it is a little bit difficult to get the fish focused. But he's really, really active. I'm really surprised how active he is, picking up all of that leftover mussel. Now, the datnoids do prefer to go for the larger pieces, But these are a faster growing species of catfish, and I can see by their voracious appetites, he's already got a really big tummy on him. You just saw there. And I don't think we're going to get to see the pleco, unfortunately. He is sort of hiding behind the filter. But hopefully he starts to come out, get a little bit more confident as he gets used to the tank. But I'm really, really pleased to see the giraffe catfish settling in really well and cleaning up all of that leftover food. So that really wraps up the feeding. Just nice to see those datnoids and the striking bars that they've got, because you don't really get to see them like this during the day when the lights are on. But yeah, that wraps up the feeding. Nice to see the giraffe catfish out. Fortunately, we're not going to get to see the pleco, who is hiding behind the wood and moss there. And that is it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing the new additions. If you've got any questions, leave them down below. As I have mentioned, this is a grow out tank for the Monster Fish Mega Tank. I've got loads of other different aquariums in case something doesn't work out, fish get too big, or I need to stop any potential aggression. But so far, so good. It's been about 3 days now and the fish are settling in. If you've got any questions, leave them down below. Thank you all for watching. Remember to keep those water changes up, and happy fish keeping.